Bonjour tout le monde. Asseyez-vous si vous voulez. Il y a quelques chaises ici. I will speak in English if that's okay. Maybe by the end of the week my French would come back enough. But hello, my name is Paul Debevec. I work at the University of Southern California's Institute for Creative Technologies and for almost 2 years now at Google Virtual Reality. At the university where I've had most of my career, I work with some other very nice computer graphics researchers, and one of our big things that we've been exploring at the Institute is trying to create realistic digital avatars of people. Part of that is to create these devices that we call light stages, which are spheres of LEDs. They're always nice to turn on when your friends come to visit, but there's a lot of things we can do with them in computer graphics, digitizing people's faces, and I'll show a little bit about that work today. This is actually one of our other colleagues. We turned him into a digital character a while ago, Digital Ira, in a collaboration with Activision. And at Google VR, I get to work with the team that does Daydream. It's an operating system for virtual reality. You can take many of the Android cell phones. I happen to have a Pixel phone. You put it into this thing, which is a bit nicer than a Google Cardboard. It has a little hand controller, c'est très chouette. And you can be in virtual reality. And actually, there's going to be a new device released very soon that has a 6th degree of freedom tracking, so it knows what you're doing, and the applications can do that. And it's all standalone, inside-out tracking, and that's a collaboration with Lenovo. And it's also the same group that makes the GoPro Odyssey, a collaboration with GoPro, and the Jump Assembler for 360 stereo video. We have a new device out with Yi called the Yi Halo that also has an up camera at this point. This is my second time to Laval Virtual, and it's exciting to be back for the 20th anniversary. The time I was here before was for the 10th anniversary, and I got to come here because we had created something at our institute, which is a little 3D display. It has a miroir qui tourne and a high-speed video projection that actually creates a floating hologram-like image. And it's not a volumetric display. It actually can have occlusion. When you look at the back of the head, you do not see the face. The device can put any photograph looking in any direction, or any view in any direction. That's something that we actually brought here to this very building. And here's an image from back then. This is from one of the public days, and we were very happy that people seem to enjoy taking a look at our little images on the display. You can see maybe it was 10 years ago from this device here. And we got to demo to a lot of people. This is one of the masters of ceremonies, Jérôme Bonaldi. And here we had like a little 10-centimeter man on there. We'd captured him in our big light stage, and we could display him fully three-dimensional, no glasses required, walk all the way around. He's back here. He can see the back of our little friend. I can see the front. It's very nice to have that natural interaction with other people. And we've had 10 years to work on this a little bit, and we've improved the system. We thought maybe we should not be shrinking our friends quite so small, so we came up with a larger device that shows a life-size human. And for this, we have unfolded the optical path of our spinning mirror and the high-speed projection so that we actually project with many projectors simultaneously. There are 216 miniature video projectors, and they're all calibrated to hit the back of this special screen. The special screen is a rear projection screen. It diffuses the light when it goes through, but it mostly diffuses it vertically. Only a very tiny bit of horizontal diffusion. So when you look through the screen, the image that you see is created by the projectors that are directly opposite you. And if you move to the side, you will see a different image made from these projectors, if you look at it from here, or made from these projectors, if you look at it from here. And that can help produce the effect of a much more realistic auto-multiscopic experience. So this is one of our friends, a technology journalist named Kara. We had the opportunity to work with the university's Shoah Foundation, which is an impressive organization that documents the stories and the testimony of survivors of the World War II Holocaust. And because of our association, our collaboration with them, we were able to digitize many, many hours of 12 different survivors. This here is Pinchas Gutter. He was very sadly, when he was a teenager, was in a concentration camp, actually shipped to several concentration camps. He survived. Most of his family did not. And he tells these incredibly important stories right now that are more important to hear today than ever before. And we recorded them with many cameras looking around. This is Pinchas speaking. We had about 60 cameras total. 30 of them are along the front, so every 6 degrees of angle, we have an image of him. And this is the right data that if we do some optical flow and some re-rendering, we can create the 216 views we need on the video projector. And so we asked him every possible question we could imagine, working with our natural language group led by David Traum, and it made it possible. There's going to be some audio, might be a little loud at first. Our graduate student, Koki Nagano, is going to ask a question of the life-size, kind of like a hologram in front of him, and then the artificial intelligence will play back the most appropriate response that we have. So he's going to say, how did you survive the Holocaust?
How did you survive the Holocaust?
How did I survive? I survived, I believe, because Providence watched over me. And also the fact that for a long time, my parents watched over us and guarded us and kept us hidden for almost 3.5 years, both before the ghetto was closed and after the ghetto was closed. And then my father told me when we were taken to the death camp that I must say that.
So you can see that as we move around, they're actually making eye contact with each other, but when the camera moves to the side, it doesn't look like the survivor is still looking at us like it would on a two-dimensional screen, or even a 3D screen with stereo. You really have all of those different angles. So I can record it in video. It feels more like he's there. The 3 dimensions, actually, the most surprising result is that you have a much better understanding of what he does with his hands, because you can see the volume of space that he's trying to illustrate. Instead of having it flat on his body, he can actually communicate more effectively. And that's very nice, because in 2 decades, this is probably the only way that we will be able to have something like a conversation with these people with so many important things to tell us. In this case here, we're recording video, we're playing it back. It's kind of a use of the light stage. We, mostly with our light stages, actually try to digitize a 3-dimensional model of the face. This is an image from a project 10 years ago as well, where we were recording this actress in many facial expressions, high-resolution detail of her face, and then we could animate it afterwards. We called it the Digital Emily project. And since then, we've done some work where we've gotten even higher resolution scans. Before, we could get like the little pores in the skin and the wrinkles. Now we can actually get the microgeometry of the skin. So I'll show you a little video of her actually. This is the totally digital version. We added some hair, some teeth. This is zoomed in, but this is the level of capture that we can do of the face to create a 3-dimensional animatable model. If you look at the reflection, you can see that we're getting down to, you know, much less than 1/10 of a millimeter, in some ways down to 1/100th of a millimeter. We've been lucky, because we are based in Los Angeles, that we have lots of people from the movie industry around, and sometimes they ask if we can run our light stage to help them with the visual effects for their movie. And we started doing this, again, about 10 years ago, recording some actors for the movie Avatar, which is kind of a virtual reality movie, if you think about it. Here is Zoe Saldana getting recorded, very high-resolution model of her face, and then the artists at Weta Digital transformed it to create the face of her character, of Neytiri. And it has a lot of the same facial structure and skin pores and skin wrinkles, obviously much bigger eyes and a different nose. There were even some human characters that were completely digital as well. So Sam Worthington at the bottom is also digital in this shot. That allows the renderer to simulate the lighting interaction between the two faces much more realistically than photographing him on a green screen and then adding CGI on top of him for when they kiss. And it's been exciting that we've gotten lots more opportunities to capture other people with this. I showed some of my results from Avatar at a talk that I gave at the Smithsonian Museum. It's our big national museums. You can visit them for free when you come to Washington, D.C. Beautiful things to see there. They saw this talk that I gave, and they thought, okay, they believed me that we had some good facial scanning technology. And so they were working on a very special project to scan a face back in 2014, and they asked if we could maybe bring our light stage to Washington, D.C. Our big ball was a little bit too big, and spheres don't go inside a box very nicely, so we had to create a special mobile unit of our light stage that we took 50 of our light sources, we took all of our cameras, we did this in about 4 days, we made it so it can fold up, go in a crate to go in the airplane, and then we had to set it up in the special location in Washington, D.C. to do the three-dimensional scan, and that went pretty well. I had to wear a suit that day. It seemed appropriate. This is one of the days where you really, really hope that the equipment marche bien. And we got 3 very high-resolution scans of our 44th president. And these were actually used to produce a 3D model. You can see a little bit about how our technology works is that we take multiple photographs in different lighting. We light more from the right, more from the left, above, below, front, and back. And we also use polarization to get rid of the shine of the skin. So we get a much better texture map down here because of the polarized lighting. It takes off all of the shine. From these images, we can figure out very high resolution surface detail. We see how the face, the light plays off of all the little parts of the face. And we can then turn this into a 3D model from our 14 cameras. And again, this is a few years old, but you can see we got a pretty high resolution scan, and it's not bad given that we did this in 5 minutes in a place that wasn't our laboratory. We were early, so he actually hung out with us, talked to us for about 7 or 8 minutes. I wish I had prepared more things to talk about, but I was very concentrated on the job for the day. So we've also gotten to continue working on some movies, and there's a couple of recent films that we've worked on that relate a little bit to virtual reality, so I thought I would talk about it. One of them is Blade Runner 2049. There's a new one. Did anyone see the original Blade Runner 1982? It's a great movie, worth watching on the Blu-ray if you can. Incredible cinematography. And in that movie, there is a very iconic character. Her name is Rachel. And the actress is, the name is Sean Young. And at the time, she was 20 years old. Now, it's later, and you know, she's an older woman right now. But they decided as a surprise in the film, they would have a scene, because she's kind of a replicant, a synthetic human. Maybe they made another one in 2045, and she still looks young. So how do you do that? Well, we did some light stage scans of 2 different actresses. And one of them was Sean Young. She's about 60 years old right now. And we got the details of her face, some aspects of her skin, kind of the shape of her skull could be modeled from these scans, the way that she moves her face into different expressions. And then we also, the movie production, cast another actress who looks a little bit like Rachel, but mostly she has the right skin, she can wear the makeup, she can be on set and wear the costume, so they can do a digital head replacement. And her name was Peeta. We did even more captures of her. We got in makeup, not in makeup, every lighting condition going around, and this is the skin microgeometry capture. This is my graduate student, Chloe Legendre, and she is taking 5 samples on the face to get the 1/100th of a millimeter detail for a better virtual character. This is important for kind of the way that the skin reflects the light to know at this level. And I'll turn the volume down, but these are some of the shots and the making of. This work was done by the visual effects company MPC, Moving Picture Company. And I was very surprised. Usually we do the scans. The movie companies, they read a few of our research papers. They hire amazing artists, amazing technical people who know to do a lot of other things. And then they create the performance and the animation. And then I wait a year to see the movie, and then I hope it looks good. And in this film where I saw it, I was waiting, okay, here's the scene, and I was looking at every little aspect of what they did. You're going to see some other making of material. Actually, no, I cut that out to go faster, but I actually forgot that I was looking at all the technical details of the face. Instead, I actually kind of believed the performance, and she kind of goes through a series of emotions. So she won. It was a good thing. So very happy to work on that. And another movie that came out recently that maybe a few of you have heard of. Oh, one last thing. We also took these two actresses and helped them create a combined version of the two actors for a special scene with Ryan Gosling as well. So another movie that you may have heard of is, oh, and they won an Oscar, which was very nice. If your friend wins an Oscar and you're at the Academy Awards, it's totally okay. Go up, say, congratulations on the Oscar, can I get a photo with you? Especially if you worked a little bit on the movie, then it's totally okay. And then you can get a photo with them with their Oscar, like the night that they got it. You can see, actually, this is interesting. It doesn't even say what it's for. It doesn't say the name. They don't make that until the party afterwards because they don't know the winner yet. So this is like a perfect brand new Oscar, and we got to be part of that. So other movie, Ready Player One. It's the big virtual reality movie. Is it out in France yet? Some people are going to it, I hope. I hope it's very, yes, wonderful. I hope it's a big popular movie. I loved it. It's so good. I'm kind of the right age to get some of the references from the 1980s. Oh my God. But in this case here, there's lots of virtual avatars, and we want to capture them. The main actor is Ty Sheridan, and you can see we did a very extensive documentation of his face, every facial expression, three-dimensional, all the details. And so they were able to create a digital version of him. And of course, you're going to see the digital version in the Oasis, the virtual reality world that's there. But you'll also be able to see him in the real world as a digital character in a few shots. And I'll show one tricky shot. When you see the movie, take a look for it. They're going to cut from real footage to a digital model of him based on the light stage scans. Real footage, real footage. That, they switched when the headset goes on. And then he was a digital character for a second there. Because it gets so close to his eye and his nose, can't do that easily with real photography. And then in the Oasis, he looks a little bit like himself. It's kind of like Avatar, where they transform him into a different version. But they can still base it a little bit on the shape of his nose and the texture of his skin, and then they give him a little digital texture as well. So we're very happy to help out a little bit with some of this. If you're interested in doing research in the area of digital characters, we have released a little bit of data that you can download through something called the Wiki Human Project, or the Digital Human League. And one of our friends, Mike Seymour is his name, he is a journalist on the visual effects industry. Has a very good website called fxguide.com. And he subjected himself to all of our scanning for a publicly available data set that you can get. And as it turns out, they actually got this data set with this face running in real time at the last SIGGRAPH conference last summer in a collaboration with Epic Games and 3Lateral and Cubic Motion doing a lot of the animation. And so this was kind of the teaser for the project. It's not a perfect face. It's probably not good enough for a movie in terms of how the animation works, all of the skin shaders. This runs in real time on a PC, and you can look at it in a Vive. And it's pretty good character for that. You have to do 90 frames per second. And they actually animated it live with live puppeteering. To show it off, they had a special booth at the conference. This is Mike, and he had a lot of animation capture technology on his face. And then this is actually me in a Vive. And I would see the digital version in front of me, and he would ask me questions. I could do an interview. Here's an interview with another one of my friends, and it's kind of a third-person perspective of what they would have seen. So you actually see this face. They made it a little bigger because we're still waiting for more pixels on the headsets, but you got to see a responsive, real-time animated, pretty realistic version of Mike Seymour. Now, all the other guys, they got kind of a less expensive avatar. Still useful for some things, but you know, I didn't get somebody who looks exactly like me either. But Mike Seymour was very recognizable. So we were happy to help with that. I talked a lot about, I have one more thing to talk about. I've talked about a lot of work to capture faces and put them into movies or video games or virtual reality. Another thing that we like to do in our group is capture environments. Back in graduate school, I was working on techniques for photogrammetry. Those are quite advanced these days. We've been experimenting with some other technologies, including, this was very secret until 2 weeks ago, including something called light fields. Has anyone heard of the light field technology? A few things. It's sort of like a, well, it's been around for 20 years, but now it's getting integrated into virtual reality, and it's going to make our virtual environments look so much better. The people who asked us to scan the very special scan in Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian Museum, they said we did okay with that, so maybe we can work with them again. And they had another project to document something very special, which is a spaceship. Space Shuttle Discovery. It's in Washington, D.C. Great to visit this wonderful museum. They got special permission to document the space shuttle, and they were bringing laser scanners and high-res cameras and cross-polarized photogrammetry, everything. Their team in the digitization office knows how to do it all. But somehow, they had an idea, maybe we're working on light fields, and they thought maybe we can capture some light fields inside the space shuttle. And actually, we were working on light fields, and we had been working on this camera that was based on changing the configuration of a GoPro Odyssey, which is normally for omnidirectional stereo. And we got our laser cutters and our 3D printers out. Jay Bush in our group does a lot of this. And we stretched it out into a curve. We built a motor drive system that Shuming Yu put together, and he wrote the electronics. And this thing rotates around in 1 minute, and it captures all of these photos on the surface of a sphere about this big. And essentially, since the cameras look out, it records all the rays of light coming into this volume. This is going to be important because if we want to transport you there in virtual reality, we need to be able to show you the views you would get from your left eye and your right eye every direction you look, but also everywhere you move your head. And it's going to change a lot when you shift left and right. And there aren't too many good technologies for that right now, to get the three-dimensional, to get all the reflections and special shading effects that you can see. So fortunately, we designed this basically so it could fit between the seats of Space Shuttle Discovery, and we go up little lifts and small holes and ladders and things like that, and try to take a moment to imagine, wow, this was in space. We're just here, but at some point this was actually in space, and then we set it up very carefully, and then we rotate it around, and we do our 1 minute capture. It captures over 1,000 images. And then we run some algorithms on it to compute 3D, to compute stereo depth maps between the views, and then we're going to reproject the images using light field rendering technology. And I'll show you a little bit of a visualization how that works. This is rendering the light field, but it makes it very clear which pixels of the rendered light field are coming from which camera. And the reason light fields can look so good is that each camera only gets used for the pixels in the scene that are along the same rays that the camera really captured. So I'm grabbing this little group of pixels from this camera, and this little group of pixels from this camera, and this little group of pixels from this camera to build new images of perspectives we never photographed, but it has the right rays of light so it looks right to create the light field rendering. And when you just open those disks up a little bit and you blend between, it actually creates this three-dimensional image. And the thing to note is that we're moving in the scene. We're not just rotating. You can see the chair is moving in front of some of those controls there. We have parallax. We have a 6 degree of freedom experience. We're moving in X and Y and Z and looking in any theta, phi, and rho. And this is particularly evident in this animation. So we can move our head anywhere inside this volume. That's enough if you are sitting down in VR, you can lean around. And it looks so much better in VR, and I'm very happy to be able to say I got to work with some amazing people at Google from the San Francisco office, and they built an application you can run on your VR machine if it can get things off of Steam VR. The app is called Welcome to Light Fields. It's absolutely free. It went online 2 weeks ago. And there's like 34 different light fields. We did some nice houses. We got some of our friends who are people to do it. The reviews, très positif, bien sûr. And this is just like a little bit of recording from that. So you can take a little guided tour, or you can go to a gallery and see. And then, of course, remember to move your head around. And you might even notice that the virtual reality is even more comfortable than you're used to, particularly for photographic content. A lot of photographic content doesn't move with your head. And so when you do this, the whole world kind of comes with you. Like, you can never change your perspective. And now that I've spent so much time in light fields, I'm afraid that makes me pretty sick to my stomach. So it's something I've spent, I looked at the Steam thing, I've spent 100 hours in Steam VR looking at light fields as we developed it, and I haven't gotten sick yet, and I've gotten to enjoy some very nice spaces. So if you are interested, please go ahead and download. That's the last thing I have. There's a couple of websites there. Google Welcome to Light Fields, and I had many collaborators on all of this work. It's great to be here at Laval. Thank you very much for coming, and enjoy Laval Virtual.